The episode begins with a man standing outside the Nagumo detective agency. He calls out to Nagumo-sensei, vowing to repay his debt to him. Inside, Nagumo receives the rent bill, but doesn't have enough money to pay it. Mashiro offers to lend some from her piggy bank, but it turns out she only has 500 yen. Just then, the man from earlier bursts in. Nagumo doesn't recognize him, and since the door was locked, Mashiro assumes he's a thief and kicks him, demanding to know how he got inside. The man admits he picked the lock. He introduces himself as Asunaro Yu, a high school detective. Nagumo finally recognizes him from TV as the top young detective in Japan. When Nagumo asks if he needs help with the case, Asunaro is lost in his thoughts, wondering why he hasn't been served coffee yet. Eventually, Mashiro brings him some. Asunaro, however, is still silently judging them for not serving it with milk and sugar. Then, he reveals the real reason for his visit. He wants to become Nagumo's assistant. Mashiro protests, saying she's already in that role. Asunaro says he's been following Nagumo since he was a high schooler who solved a major case, and now he wants to learn under him. Nagumo replies that he doesn't have the money to hire anyone, but Asunaro says he'll work for free. He's already rich from other jobs and is even willing to pay Nagumo tuition. Nagumo begins to consider it, but Mashiro protests again. Asunaro taunts her, saying he'd be more useful than she is, and the two begin to argue. In the next scene, Asunaro's assistant, Maki, announces a competition between the two, saying the winner will become Nagumo's assistant. Mashiro objects, pointing out that it doesn't make sense for Asunaro's assistant to set the rules. With Nagumo acting as the chief guest, the first challenge begins. Both are given a wire puzzle to separate a test of intelligence. Asunaro looks confident, but Mashiro finishes first. It turns out she just yanked the wires apart with brute strength. Apparently, all the cardio from the last episode gave her Goku-level power. Asunaro cries foul, but Maki points out she never said strength wasn't allowed. Next up is a code-breaking challenge. Maki has written down a cipher, and the first to solve it wins. Nagumo, meanwhile, wonders why they had to come outside for something that could easily be done in the office. Asunaro eventually cracks the code. It was the value of pi. Maki looks disappointed, and Mashiro accuses him of cheating again. Final challenge is a strength test. They must collect stamps from various locations and race back. Given Mashiro's speed, she seems like the likely winner. While Nagumo naps through most of the challenge, Maki tells him that Asunaro wants to restore Nagumo to his former glory, back to center stage. Nagumo admits Asunaro reminds him of his younger self. Unlike Nagumo, who had no partner, Asunaro has one. Nagumo even thinks Asunaro might surpass him someday. Maki is touched by this, but asks Nagumo not to fire Mashiro even if she loses. But Nagumo believes no one can beat Mashiro in raw strength. Unexpectedly, Asunaro pulls ahead in the race. That's when Mashiro realizes that if she loses, she won't be able to work with Nagumo anymore. She starts tossing stuff out of her vault to lighten her load, and the amount of stuff in there is insane. There's even a full person inside it. Wish I were in there too. With a final burst of determination, she powers up. We see a flashback to her martial arts training, where she asked her coach if she could become a detective. The coach responded, "Of course. Wait, what's a detective?" Mashiro wins. Asu admits defeat and says he's found his rival. Mashiro brushes him off, calling him annoying and telling him to go away. Nagumo, exhausted just from watching, tells her he didn't hire Asunaro because he believes Mashiro will make more money than him someday. She's deeply moved by this. Later, we see Nagumo still broke. Mashiro offers him money again. Suddenly, Asunaro appears out of nowhere, surprising them both. Maki gives them a yoken as a gift. Mashiro cuts it and takes a bite, and Asunaro looks like his soul has left his body. It turns out Asunaro actually came because he has a problem. He's being stalked. Maki guesses it might be a fan since he's so popular. Nagumo agrees to take the case. We see Asunaro walking through public areas, while Nagumo, Mashiro, and Maki tail him. Asunaro suspects a big guy might be the stalker, then switches to suspecting a woman in a van. Nagumo thinks this will go on forever. Suddenly, a group of girls surround Asunaro, asking for autographs. He ends up stripped of his clothes, but gets new ones just as quickly. Maki reveals this happens every day. Nagumo says he's already identified the stalker and tells Asunaro to relocate. Sure enough, the stalker follows them to the new location. Asunaro corners him in an alley and demands answers. The man tries to run, but Nagumo stops him. As Nagumo begins telling one of his stories, the man bolts again. Nagumo tries to chase him, but his joints give out. Now it's Mashiro's turn. She charges at him with a demonic demonic aura, but the stalker distracts her and escapes again. Finally, Maki tries to stop him but doesn't know what to do, so she strips and throws her clothes at him. Even Nagumo didn't see that coming. They finally catch the stalker. Nagumo checks his face, and it's Nezu. At least we know he didn't die in last week's explosion. Nezu insists he's not the stalker. He says it's actually Asunaro. He explains that Asunaro has been hanging around the agency for a month, secretly following Nagumo everywhere. Maki, clearly furious, demands an explanation. Asunaro admits he was trying to study Nagumo's daily habits so he could find the perfect time to approach him. Maki looks like she's about to power up Dragon Ball style. Suddenly, Asunaro uses Maki's move strips and runs away. Masha commands Nezu to go catch him. Nagumo closes the episode with a quote. They say the worst stalkers don't even realize they're doing it. The episode begins with Nagumo receiving an invitation from a wealthy man to attend a dinner party at an old villa in the middle of nowhere. Sensing something suspicious, he feels uneasy. But Mashiro is already excited to head out with him. The next scene, the two are seen crossing a rickety old bridge. Once across, they arrive at the villa known as the Old Nagasaki House, or the Mansion of Screams. It's owned by the rich and mysterious Kuroye Yasuo. Nagumo shares that a massacre once occurred there, and locals say the screams of the victims can still be heard to this day. They're welcomed at the door by a man wearing a smiling mask, who introduces himself as Watanabe. Mashiro immediately accuses him of being involved in the past massacre, but the man apologizes, saying he's too shy to show his face. While pointing toward the direction of the hall, a burn scar on his hand becomes visible, prompting Mashiro to blame him again. Inside, the other guests warmly greet Nagumo, likely recognizing him from his more popular days. Watanabe explains that this party has been held annually for the past 15 years, except for 1 year, 3 years ago. When Mashiro asks what happened that year, he casually replies that he caught the flu. Suddenly, Asunaro and Miyano arrive at the party. Miyano and Megumi begin arguing, and it's revealed they were once married but divorced after a long custody battle. Upset, Megumi storms out to take a shower. Asunaro tries to chat with Nagumo and Mashiro, but the two ignore him and head for the food instead. Asunaro then mentions it's his second time attending this party. Mashiro asks if he feels something suspicious is about to happen, and he agrees, though Nagumo brushes it off. Just then, a scream rings out. Mashiro turns to Nagumo, who denies hearing anything. They rush to Megumi's room but find the door locked. Nagumo attempts to break it down and injures his shoulder in the process. Mashiro, however, smashes the door open effortlessly, only to reveal she was just panicking over a cockroach as they return to the hall. The masked man shares the story behind the mansion. It once belonged to Nagasaki Kampachi, a wealthy man. One day, an intruder broke in and murdered the entire family. To prevent any escape, he severed the rope bridge. Only the eldest daughter survived. She had been staying at a friend's house that night. Suddenly, another scream is heard. Smoke is seen rising from the direction of the bridge, the only link to the outside world. Nagumo and Mashiro go to investigate. At the house, Asunaro tells the masked man that he rechecked the story and discovered a discrepancy. The bridge hadn't been cut, it was burned to make it look like it had been struck by lightning. The masked man sheepishly admits he just read the story off a wiki. Nagumo and Mashiro find out a nearby tree was hit by lightning and scorched. Mashiro checks if the bridge is still stable, but with her Gaku-level strength, she accidentally snaps it. Nagumo rushes back inside and informs everyone that the bridge has collapsed. He urges everyone to remain inside until the storm passes. Suddenly, a man dressed as a clown appears. When Nagumo asks who he is, the clown introduces himself as Masamin, saying he's been at the party since the beginning but hadn't introduced himself yet. Miyano approaches Nagumo and asks if the bridge really collapsed due to lightning. Worried they'll be exposed, Nagumo nervously confirms the lightning story, which satisfies Miyano. He then ominously suggests that history is repeating itself. Something terrible might happen. Just like 15 years ago, when someone questions why anyone would do this, Nagumo nervously deflects the question to his assistant. Mashiro theorizes that someone may be seeking revenge for the original incident and then asks Asunaro to identify the culprit. Without hesitation, Asunaro accuses Megumi of being behind the destruction of the bridge. Though Megumi denies it, at first, Asunaro reveals that she is actually the sole survivor of the original massacre. Megumi finally admits the truth. After the tragedy, Megumi had researched the killer and discovered he was related to Kuroi, the head of the household. Revenge, she got close to Kuroi and recreated the scene of the massacre to carry out her plan. She had planted a bomb on the bridge, which only detonated now due to a delayed reaction. Once the storm clears, the three detectives head toward the collapsed bridge. Mashiro wonders how they'll get back home. Just then, Maki arrives in a helicopter. To pick them up, curious Nagumo asks Asunaro how he figured out Megumi was the culprit. Asunaro simply replies, instinct. Back at the agency, Nagumo wonders why Kuroi, the host, was never seen at his own party. Mashiro reveals that Kuroi was present and Nagumo just didn't notice him. Feeling uneasy, Nagumo decides to head back, convinced something's still off. But it turns out that unease was just a symptom of aging. In the final scenes, Mashiro is seen playing Pokemon Go and catches a Pikachu. Asunaro asks Nagumo if he knows about the game, but Mashiro jokes that it took Nagumo a whole month to learn how to take pictures with his phone. Maki arrives looking for her master and assumes Mashiro is trying to take her picture. Mashiro explains she's just playing Pokemon Go. Nagumo doubts Maki knows anything about that, but Mashiro thinks otherwise and asks Maki if she knows Pikachu. Maki nervously replies that she does, and that Pikachu goes well with rice. Maki drinks juice while complaining about how quickly youth culture changes. Nagumo wonders just how old she must be to say that. As Mashiro cleans the office, she finds a telephone card. Nagumo teases her, saying she probably doesn't even know what it is, but Mashiro insists she's a heavy user. When he tells her to try it, she just puts it to her ear and says, hello. Meanwhile, Nagumo is busy taking burst shots on his phone. Maki says even Asunaro doesn't know how to use the card. He once tried paying a bill with it. Assuming Maki is older than the others, Nagumo asks her age. That's when Maki suddenly remembers she wasn't drinking tea, but something much stronger. She then admits even she doesn't know how to use a telephone card and adds that she loves Pikachu, and the episode ends.